Can you guys see my screen sharing?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, I'll try to keep up as we go through, and then I will go ahead and turn it over to Chet.
It was a little after 6, June 11th, the Rikers monthly scheduled town council meeting. I'll call the order. First thing, we'll have roll call. Mr. Bowles.
Okay, let's start out with Robert Jones,
I'm here.
Jessica Smith,
Here.
Shane Davis,
Here.
Steve Denny. Steve Denny.
Let me look and see if we got him
No, we're not
somewhere.
connected.
Hold on, let me see. I might have him muted still.
Everybody hold on, we're trying to get hold of Steve. But I would appreciate it tonight when you talk and make a comment or anything, if you would say who it is. We've had some people that said they couldn't understand who was talking, didn't recognize the voice. So if you interject something, if you just say your name first, that'd be gratefully appreciated.
I am not seeing Steve. Hold on, let me check on the participant side of it. No, I think we might be missing Steve.
Says it won't let him on.
It won't let him on?
Maybe they kicked you off.
And pay the bill.
He says the meeting will start in a few seconds. I won't let him on.
Can you ask him to close the window and try logging back on?
Are you on your phone or the window? Rachel asked that you close the window and start again.
Yeah, try re-clicking on the link.
Yeah.
Or
Do it on your phone. Can you do it on your phone then? Okay, go ahead and do it on your phone. Sorry. Okay, thank you.
okay, guys, we're just waiting on Steve Denny to call in, and then we'll keep the meeting moving forward.
Now, Steve. Just that ID. Are you at the stable? You know? Okay.
It's just not working for him.
We don't need it.
Let me borrow your phone for a minute.
Hold on, Steve. I may have told him the wrong participant number.
It's Rachel. One option that you could try is go on to, this would be the easiest way, I think, go on to Facebook and go to the town. You don't have, okay, then that won't work either. Let me, does it, okay. Can you try the call-in option instead? Is there a call-in option? Yeah, look in the email and see if there's a phone number that you'd be able to call in on. Yes, so we'll hang up. You try calling in on that number, okay? All right, if it doesn't, call Chet back. Thanks. All right. Okay, Steve, can you hear us now?
Yes.
All right, you're in.
Hey,
There we go.
Awesome. Technology, don't you love it?
It's amazing, isn't it?
You bet.
It is.
I feel a lot better. It's not me.
Okay.
Okay, let's try it again. Steve Denny,
Present.
He's present.
present. How about Chet Bab?
I'm here.
All right.
Hope the rest of the meeting don't go this slow.
I know.
Roll call is, we have the quorum and we'll move on. Approval of minutes of the May town council meeting. I think everyone's had a chance to look at them online. Is there any questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I had one quick comment about the Historic Preservation Commission. I thought it was Bruce Ring that resigned and not Josh Ring.
That is correct.
The minute-
Resign.
Okay, the minutes say Josh Ring resigned, so we probably should correct that.
Thank you.
With that correction, I make a motion to approve the minutes unless other people have comments.
Ms. Mob, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve April minutes with the correction of the one name from Josh to Bruce. All in favor, say aye.
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 All disagree, same. Motion carried 5-0. Approval of memorandum of executive session from 6/3/20. I guess I don't have that in front of me.
I don't think it's on the network either.
Okay.
We may not have it
What
yet.
that is, okay, what that is the meeting we had last Wednesday night, a week ago Wednesday night, executive session where council went through the resumes for the town manager, and that's all we talked about was the town manager position. So can I have a motion to approve the memorandum of executive session?
Ms. Mob, I'll make a motion to that effect.
I'll second that. This is Shane.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to approve the memorandum of executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All that disagree, same. Okay, motion to approve. 5-0. Clerk Treasurer's report.
Okay, I think all of you saw the claims on there, looked at those. And then on the month ending May the 31st, the general fund had a balance of $352,791, which based on 2019 to 2018, it's a little more than 19, a little less than 18. So considering what we're going through, I think it's very good. I might add that I've had some questions about people paying their electric bills and water bills. I would say that 90% of the people are paying those on time and current, and the 10% that haven't, several are businesses that are shut down. Several people have made partial payments and are still making partial payments, so I think we're doing fine on that.
Any questions on the clerk treasurer's report? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Shane and Jessica.
Shane, yes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second for the clerk treasurer's report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All that disagree, same. Approved 5-0. Department reports. I guess we'll start with Chief Moore.
I know Chief S'more's on here somewhere. I hope I don't have you muted.
It's okay. All of us have the report. Sure.
No, give me just a second. Nope, maybe he's not.
Let's move on to the police chief. Please, Chief Farr.
Good evening.
Evening, Chief.
Good evening.
I believe you have my report. A couple different things for last month. We got measured for new bullet-resistant vests. Those expire about every 5 years, so we have to keep tabs on when their expiration's coming up and when we order the new ones, so we get them in time. On May 16th, I helped state police with a protest that came to town, and it actually was targeted towards the reformatory, but they staged in town Pendleton and then drove through Pendleton. So I assisted with that. On the 18th, met with Rachel and representatives from Garner's Towing about the towing contract. We were able to get that signed, and that's started up now. Second Harvest Food Bank, they had 2 food drives last month at the high school parking lot. And from what I saw and what I heard, they had large numbers, so that was a positive thing for South Madison community. If you look at our total dispatch calls, you can see we were up 121 from the month of April. So I think people are starting to come out of the Corona shell and get back into being in town. So our numbers went up 121 calls from April to May. So June will be interesting. And we had 31 Indiana code warnings, 42 citations, 3 ordinances, citations, 3 warnings, 29 criminal arrests, 0 juvenile arrests. And that is it for my report.
More comments?
I got one question, Chief. What happens to the old bulletproof vests when you're done with them?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit. What was that?
When the bulletproof vests expire after 5 years, what do you do with them?
We actually have them stacked in the storage room, just in case we may need extra ballistic protection.
Sure.
You know, they say they expire 5 years. If I was in the vest business, I would give them an expiration also.
Sure.
But I still think they'll work somewhat, so we keep them for emergencies.
Well, I know on occasion had some firemen wear them too, and I didn't know if maybe we need to pass them on down after a certain amount of time or something. Just,
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to purely because of liability of the expiration on them. That's why we can't wear them.
thank you.
I do have Chief Moore. He was the one having some feedback, so I can unmute him so we can talk a little bit. And then I told him I was going to mute him again when he's done. So, all right, Chief.
Chief Farr. If not, can I have a motion to approve the chief's report?
This is Steve. I'll make a motion.
This is Bob. I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve the police report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Report approved 5-0. Let's go back to Chief Moore, please.
Okay, I'm here. Other than the numbers that are in front of you, I don't have anything else to add.
The top four,
Right there. Next.
Hello?
Yeah, we're looking at the run report that you gave.
All right.
Is anybody hearing a clicking noise?
Yeah, it's Chief Moore's phone. So once we're done
Oh, gotcha.
talking about his report, then we'll turn it back off.
Yeah, Sarah down in Mayberry's got my phone all out of whack.
Any questions on Chief Moore's numbers? Accept the chief's report.
I'll make a motion to accept the report as presented.
I'll second.
Yes, that was Shane.
Okay, thank you. I got a motion, a second to approve the fire chief's report. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same. We're approved. Judge Guest.
Good evening,
Judge.
council members, Rachel.
Hey, Judge.
Let's-
Good evening.
I'd like to start as far as our numbers, just the fact that significantly the uniform tickets 2020 and 2019 were quite a ways off, rightfully so. Very few of the law enforcement are writing tickets that we can see. We have been working with Judge Dudley out of Anderson. He's been charged for all of Madison County to develop a return to real life program with all the courts. We had to put this together, and then it had to be submitted to the Supreme Court for approval for chances to be able to reopen. Because we don't do misdemeanors, it really lightens the load on us because we don't have anybody in jail. With that in mind, we have talked with, and we've been given specific guidelines of what and how we're supposed to handle our operation. No different than common sense goes on with. We will be opening not until July, at this time, July 29th. We will be starting after 4 o'clock. We will have designated specific people that are going through for initial hearings. They will be sent a letter, told a specific time to be here. And we've staggered these people in the fact that we will, at this time, only have 10 in our sessions. We will have multiple sessions during that period of time. Mr. Bowles has been so gracious to say that he'll make sure that he'll have the place all cleaned up and ready to roll COVID-proof for that evening. And the fact during the different sessions, we'll have to wipe down during that period of time. Everybody will have a mask on. Everybody will go through contact or non-contact temperature checks before they're allowed. they will have to complete a questionnaire relative to, in the past 14 days, what they have done and what they haven't done. If they violate any of these things, we have no choice but to reschedule them and deny them entrance to the court. Any questions about that? All that good stuff. No?
Judge, one thing is, if the weather permits, can we have someone outside at a table with a thermometer check people before they come to the building?
We will have, as far as one of our court people actually checking everybody that comes in. As they come in, we'll check them off as far as being here. We're not going to have anybody walk in unannounced.
Right.
They then have to go through their rights advisement as well as this COVID questionnaire and a temperature check at that time.
And you're going to furnish them a mask if they don't have one?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
There also will be hand cleaners and that also that we're going to request they do that before they enter also.
Very good.
Anything else? The second part of my report is more, I want to say it's miserably untimely as to what and how. There's a group here at Pendleton that had wanted to talk about mental health and some of the problems. And they asked me to be a part of this situation, trying to be able to find out how and what, because we had had some elementary attempts at suicide and a younger high schooler commit suicide. Had come up with a plan, basically is don't give up signs. And you've probably seen them, at least in front of my house and other places over town. There's short little statements. Basically, you matter, you're not alone. The information that furnished you has been backed up. We have one individual, his grandson committed suicide, and he's very dedicated to be able to try to make a difference with this. He's been spearheading as far as having the signs put out through the community. He has been receiving the phone calls of people thanking him for that. They said, and again, it's interesting because people want to know what's going on. With that, we're giving them information, and in the report that I gave you, basically is to know the signs. There's 9 different things that you need to be aware of. And make sure the fact that you've got somebody, be it a sister, brother, nephew, grandson, has any of those particular signs, and that the big thing is not to, I want to call it mince around, not to say, well, you know, you're not been feeling good and so on. They call it the awkward moment, is you simply ask, are you planning to take your life? And hopefully that seems to be the response that many people, many of the kids want to be able to say, okay, yes, I am. Okay, that's when the conversation starts. With that starting, the last part of the sheet that I gave you, sent out to you, has a list of various hotline calls. The last one, yeah, hotline calls, specifically you need that. And then also some 5 mental health resources. All I could do is ask you to be able to take those, put them someplace and spread them out as much as you possibly can. I'm asking the council on a personal level also, Mr. Bowles has already stepped up to this, and he has several signs in his possession and also several of these papers he's taken with him. I would like to see more council members and other friends that you've got to be able to step up and say, hey, I want to put a sign out. The only caveat is the fact I'll give them the information. If they want to trash the sign later on, just bring it back to me. I really want them to have a life of their own, to be moved around in the most inconspicuous places to surprise people. It seems like that's the serendipity of it all, and the fact that someone walks by or runs by and says, oh, yeah, okay, I'm hanging in here for another day, or else I maybe need to get some help. The tragedy that recently struck us just brought home how close it could be to us. So with that in mind, I'm guessing, I don't think there's such a thing as official, but again, need the council to endorse the signs that they see them, they know about them, they have more questions or otherwise, or need some help, they can use that resource sheet. More specifically, if they need to give me a call, I'll direct them that way. With that, or any questions?
Good report, Judge.
I think it's a miserable report because of the topics we have to issue. I appreciate it. Thank you, Chapman. I wish I wouldn't have to be doing it.
Yep, I agree. Any other comments or questions for the judge?
Listen, Bob, I appreciate the judge working on that. It's a continuing tragedy, not just here, but you're seeing that nationwide, but it's pleased that the judge has stepped to the plate to try to take some proactive steps to try to prevent any more of this. So thank you, Judge.
Now, again, I think if anything, you may be called in action, you don't know it. Someone may walk up to you on time and say, what are all these blankety blank signs around here? And that's your chance to be able to tell them and get them on board.
Get the message out, yes.
And I'd appreciate that very much.
Can I have a motion to approve the judge's report, please?
This is Bob, I'll make a motion to that effect.
I'll second.
In a second, to approve the judge's report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Approved 5-0. Park Board.
Let me know when I can get the signs to you. Thanks.
All right, I think I have to unmute Donnie. Donnie, can you talk now?
I can talk if you can hear me.
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
Good evening, Donnie.
I think you've got Aaron's report.
Yes, we have it.
The only thing that we were going to add was our signs that we put at the pool. We've made a little amendment to that. And unless you guys want to change something, I think that's where we're at with it. But it's going to be left in your court by talking with the DNR and Chief Farr.
You're talking about the
And
swim.
Okay,
yes, where they've been wading in.
hold on. So everybody understands what Donnie's talking about. Is there a facial of the new sign?
Let's see. I think I could find it on Facebook. Everything's on.
Rachel, basically what we took off was the wading is no wading, no swimming, and just left it as a warning, and then gave the warning as slippery rocks, undertow, and current.
There we go.
There we go. What?
Can, for those of you who have called in or have logged in instead of calling in, we got a picture of the park department is posted on the Facebook page. It has Chief Farr and Aaron Burris on there with the sign that's posted to the bridge that goes over the falls that says the warning, no swimming or wading allowed, that Donnie had just talked about.
Okay.
Aaron emailed
Yeah,
a revised picture late this afternoon as well. I don't know if you have
Yes,
that.
that's where we took off the wading and swimming, right underneath warning.
That's what I'm trying to get at, okay?
So it just says, what's the sign say now that's been changed?
It says.
It says warning.
Go ahead, Donnie.
No, go ahead.
It says
You have a-
warning, Waterfalls and dams are enticing places to visit that hold hidden dangers, slippery rocks, hidden debris, hydraulic undertow.
Okay, so people who want to wade and do it in a responsible fashion can do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Donnie.
Yes.
Hey, Donnie, this is Mark Farr. Do you mind if I interject real quick?
Please.
Go for it, Chief.
Okay.
We've worked very well together. Mark and I and Aaron. It's been a. We're just trying to solve a problem before it gets worse.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the history on the falls, and I spoke with Jeanette Isbell today about it even. The swimming basin, the old swimming pool between the upper fall and the lower man-made fall is controlled by ordinance. No swimming allowed in that area. With that being said, because state law intervenes when it comes to state waterways, you can traverse the water, and people have done that with floating devices. But once they touch the earth under the water by getting out or jumping in, they're in violation of the ordinance. I was told that the ordinance was written back when it was written because the water itself was so contaminated with E. coli, sewage, and there was a meat processing plant upstream that used to dump in. With that said, the waiting area behind the museum and the waiting area below the lower fall is totally legal to be in. The problem has been this year, and I love seeing the people down there chasing minnows and having a good time. But we've had, I believe, upwards of 4 or 5 people now that have actually, their kids have gone over the falls or an adult had to go in and save them. And we have the hydraulic effect at the Lowhead Dam where it churns, and if you don't know how to get out of one of those, you get stuck. So it's very dangerous. So, and we get calls all day long of people complaining that people are waiting in the fall, in the upper area behind the museum. And while it's legal, we still go and we tell them it's legal. So we tried to come up with some kind of signage that would protect the town, allow people to enjoy the water, like McCormick's Creek or Turkey Run or Clifty Falls. And that's what we came up with, this sign. And the verbiage was kind of wrong the first time, so Donnie quickly changed it, made it fit. We posted it on Facebook. It blew up, of course, which was great because we got a lot of ideas and the way people were thinking. And then, so we still have the ordinance on the old swimming area. This sign just simply warns you that it can be dangerous. The only other option for the town would be to initiate an ordinance saying no swimming at all, or no swimming or wading. Or, because I know the state's pressuring for Lowhead Dam removal, there's been idea and talk about removing the lower dam and turning it back into a free-flowing Fall Creek, which some people believe that's a historical thing and it could be an area of contention. But I've also spoke to a lot of people that think that it would make the falls even more pretty because it'd make them probably 9-10 feet tall, dumping over, and it looked pretty. So that's where we're at, if that makes sense at all. And it's all Donnie's fault.
I'm sorry. I will ask for forgiveness.
And I did also speak with Aaron today, because I don't know when the last time it was done, but I gave him the name and number of someone that can do a water test just to double check that the water is cleaner than the last time it was tested. So that.
Anything else about the sign at the park?
This is Bob. I think a sign's a good idea to advise people, but folks would, parents particularly, would use some common sense as far as safeguarding particularly their smaller children. As the current really picks up as you get into the middle of the creek, there's pretty good flow to that, and you can quickly go right over the falls, and we don't need any more of those episodes. So I think it's a step forward. Appreciate the work on that.
Yeah, I think the sign's a good start. I would say I think people take it a little bit too far when they say they're waiting. I've been at the museum on countless weekends where people are in full swimsuits with pool toys and making a day of it like it's a beach, not just kind of wading through the creek like you would if you were at a park. So I think it's something we need to keep our eye on. I think it might be a good idea to at least investigate removing that Lowhead Dam and just see what that process would entail, because of the danger it poses, especially when the creek is so high after a rainfall.
If one thing, Mark Farr, one thing, if we're going to continue to have the basin area controlled by ordinance, one thing, Donnie, maybe we need to put up some signs saying no swimming in that area, just to make it a little louder.
I did put up 2 there in reference of the ordinance, one on each
Awesome.
side of the creek. So if we still need more, you and I can talk about that and we can get some more.
Okay.
Hey, I'm fine with all that as long as the chief and the park people are working together and that Jeff Graham, our lawyer, is involved, that we're not in any liability at all. Jeff and I talked about this yesterday, so I'm fine with it right now. But between the park lawyer and the town lawyer, we need to make sure what we're saying and doing can be enforced by the chief, whether it's in an ordinance form or not. Chief, you agree or disagree?
Oh, no, I always like the attorney's input.
Okay.
Chad, this is Donnie.
Yes.
We did contact our lawyer, and he's the one that suggested how to reword that. So that's why we took that off. It's just basically a warning. And we also contacted our board president, and he also totally agreed with that.
Okay, we will, we'll take a look at this and make any tweaks necessary on the ordinance necessary to give it some teeth.
Okay. The only other thing I got to have is we really appreciate the light department coming and assisting us over the last couple of days on this wind. We've had some trees near the playground area that people walk under that we didn't want the broken limbs to hit. They did come and remove them, so we have to give a kudos out to the light department for helping us on that too.
Don't worry, we'll bill you their time, Donnie.
Okay, that's fine.
Hey, Donnie, one other thing about the sign, the round handrails there by the parking area and up by the museum, maybe we need to get one of those signs put there so people see it when they first walk in.
I got one there, sir.
Okay, you're a man. Thank you. You're the man.
Just here to help you guys and help out the park.
Yes, thank you.
Anything else, Donnie?
I don't believe so.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Any questions or comments for the park? If not, I entertain for a motion to approve.
This is Bob. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thanks, Bob.
This is Shane. I'll second.
Thanks, Shane. I have a motion and second to approve the park report. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Approved 5-0. Town manager report.
All right. The month of May, as I wrote in my report, it's been very busy for us. Our public works guys have all been out in the field trying to keep up with mowing and trimming and weeds. So that's been kind of nice because the weather's been so nice. We have been So we have some information that may be kind of deceiving at first, but Kayla reported to me that our number of permits issued for the month of May is down 42%. However, we're seeing 1% growth over last year at this time in the estimated value of the improvements. So we might be doing less permits, but the types of projects we're doing are much larger in scale, which is exciting. Obviously, with everyone being home, there's been a lot more interest in outdoor home improvements. You know, we've been getting a lot of requests for fences, patios, garages, pools. So that's been keeping us busy as well. Some things on my side of the table that I'd like to note that keep you guys in the loop on. You know, the project with NDOT that we have going out at Enterprise Drive and State Street. I'm sure everyone is aware that it is still not completed yet. I've been talking with the contractor and the designer on that, and the contractor had left and was working on another project, and we're just waiting for them to get back to Pendleton to finish that project up. So no one's forgotten about it. It is just working with timing with the contractor. The business park trail that we talked about last month, we had gotten funding awarded from the MPO. Unfortunately, there was a timeline on that funding, and NDOT has basically rescinded that funding. It wasn't anything that the town did wrong. We were trying to keep up our best with timelines. It's just one of those things. We were trying to pick up money that Fortville had given up because they were running short on time. So we tried to grab it and run with it, but then we ran out of time too. So we'll keep an eye on that. So if there's other opportunities to get money for design, we will continue working on that. However, we did get to keep our funds for the pedestrian improvements out by US 36, State Road 67 corridor. So we'll keep moving forward on that as well. A lot of our boards and commissions for the month of May, we did not meet because of COVID-19. We were doing essential meetings only. So we did have a special plan commission meeting where we talked about the secondary plat for Hunsinger Farm, which was approved. We have a pre-con meeting set for tomorrow, so that will be up and going before too long. We also met with the redevelopment commission, and really it was kind of just touching base and refreshing everyone as to what projects were going on. So it was a good meeting. Utility office, like Willie had mentioned earlier, we're still, you know, keeping an eye on things to see how far people are behind. We had a large donation from a local organization where we were able to direct some of those funds to some people that we knew were behind that had lost their jobs or whatever. So Tracy and I kind of worked through that a little bit, which was a very generous thing. Our community is very generous, so that was exciting. Let's see. Electric department, they have been doing awesome with working with Carrot Glen and making sure that that subdivision is all in line. Everything has been installed for phase 1A, and they've also wrapped up a phase 3 transformer that they installed at the entrance for the sewer. As for the water department, we are working on finishing the installation of the 5/8 inch meters, which has been that ongoing project. And then Justin said they're going to be working on starting the installation of the 1-inch meters coming up next. Also, our guys got the baskets up on State Street that I'm sure you guys have all noticed. They look great. And that was kind of a combination between the water department and the electric department working on that. The street department has been crazy busy. Poor Rick has been running all over town, trying to make sure that we were getting things mowed. You know, working on the roundabouts. We're working on getting the wayfinding signage for downtown installed. Those should be going up tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. On the stormwater side of things, we have been working with Banning on mapping, drainage issues, and Cook is back and has been working really hard on getting that stormwater stuff up and moving. Cemetery, I think, looked great for Memorial Day. Aaron Goen did come back and is working with us now, and that I think everything looked really, really nice for the cemetery for this Memorial Day. I think that's all I got tonight, unless you guys have any questions for me.
I have one question. We had made a resolution to appoint Craig as our board member on it, but okay, do we need to bring that before the board again to second time or not a resolution.
Is that right, Jeff?
Can you repeat that, please? I could barely hear. I'm sorry.
Turn your bell tone up, Lee. Hey, we're putting Craig Switzer in as our board member with the electric
With IMPA.
IMPA.
Right.
And we, on May the 14th, we signed a resolution and read it and everything, appointing him of that. And I just want to make sure we don't need to do it again before we send him on his way.
The council already voted to do that, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't need to do anything else. That'd be good enough.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make one little comment. During the COVID deal that all of us has been through, all of our employees were working from home, or most of them, for 11 weeks, I think. If something come up, like somebody's water problem or electrical problem or street department problem, utility office problem, I just want to commend, first of all, the supervisors of the groups. During that 11 weeks, we didn't really have any major problems. They took care of it with their employees. They could call the employees and say, hey, we gotta go do this. They'd go do it, get done, they'd go back home. No one complained, everybody done their job, and it's a plus for me anyway, how it has really worked out. So thanks to everybody on that, and I mean that, everybody.
Thank you.
One good example of that, Tracy had about 3 sheets of customers that for some reason their meter didn't read and send in the information. So she got with Justin, and he brought a couple of his guys in, went around, got them all read, called up. So without being told, they did a great job. Great bunch of guys.
Yep. Any questions for Rachel? Comments? If not, I entertain a motion, please.
This is Steve. I'll make a motion.
It's Bob, I'll second it.
Thanks, Bob. I have a motion, a second, to put town manager report. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same. Report is approved by all. Thank you. Old business is impact fees. Rachel, or
I think Jessica and I will probably tag team this one.
okay.
Yeah. Do you want to start on it, Rachel?
Sure, I can start on it. So Jessica and I did meet this past month to work on moving the impact fee project forward. I did reach out to Banning and Baker Tilly. They're going to be working on that together. Banning does more of the traffic side of it, and then Baker Tilly is the financial piece of it. And Banning has given us an updated contract. It was very similar to the contract that we had been given last year with the same fee in it. And I'm still waiting on the one from Baker Tilly, but I did bring it tonight for Chet to go ahead and sign so we can get that rolling. And then as soon as I get the one from Baker Tilly, we can get that one signed and going as well. And that's where I think I'll kick it over to you, Jessica.
Yeah, I've spoken with Willie and Linda about how to pay for these impact fee studies for Banning and Baker Tilly. Their suggestion, which Rachel and I have both spoken about and agree with, would be to take a loan from the electric utility and then pay ourselves back with money that we receive through the impact fees. I think Willie's checked with Jeff on that, and that is something that we are able to do under the statute. So that way we can pay for the studies, and it's just a loan from the electric utility. So we're not just taking that money and not getting it back. And I think that's really all we've talked about at this point until we get the engagement letter signed for Banning and Baker Tilly and get that work started, and let them tell us what they need on their end to gather. That's where things stand.
And I think once we get the document signed, then the next piece that Jessica and I can work on is, we're going to have a committee that gets pulled together for this. So we'll work with, of course, council on selecting the people that need to be part of that committee. And there's specific roles that have to be filled by the committee. So it's, they have to represent different industries and things like that. So we'll have to work together to find some people to work on that.
Do we have a time?
Sorry about that, guys. It's my dog in the background.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Jessica?
I said, I'm sorry, that's my dog in the background, but I agree with everything Rachel just said about the impact studies. Forming the committee is a step.
This Bob, I have a question either for Rachel or Jessica on what kind of time frame are we looking at? I know, if memory serves me right, I thought it's from the time that you begin the process. It takes like a year. You have to have public hearings, and it takes a year or so for it to go into effect. If my memory is correct on that, are you aware of what kind of a time frame we're dealing with on this at this point in time?
Not yet, unless Rachel has something to add, only because we don't know what type of schedule Baker Tilly and Banning are going to be under, and working with their studies. Because we can't really do anything or move forward with public hearings until we have figures in place from them.
Okay. I was thinking there again that after you get things in place, after you get it in place, then you have to wait, 6 months for it to kick in as far as the collection of fees?
Yes, I think you're right, Bob.
Okay. All right.
I would expect everything to be in place and we could start if we signed our documents, our agreements now, and hopefully we have no more hiccups with COVID and things being shut down and we can move forward. I would expect us to be able to start collecting in about a year.
Okay, good. Preferably sooner, but yeah, just moving forward.
Yeah. But like you said, there's that 6 month, once we get the stuff, everything done and in place, there's that 6 months before you can actually start collecting. So we'll just have to make sure we stay on top of it and continue moving the project forward.
Okay, good. And one other question on I agree with if we borrow from the electric utility, since we own the electric utility. I was thinking there was a time frame when we borrow that you have to pay it back, or I'm thinking there's some language that you can't extend that. Because obviously we're looking at a year from now before you would start collecting any revenues on the fees, and we don't know what kind of dollar amount we're talking about as far as Baker Tilly or for Banning to do this, and also legal work that will be part of this. But what kind of money we're talking about to put this deal together, on time frame on borrowing the money for the electric utility, or can we extend that beyond that? Because I wouldn't think we'd be able to get it paid back within 1 year, and if my memory is right, I thought you had to pay loans back like within a year to the electric, or to your own utility.
I would defer to Jeff on that. If Jeff wants to jump in and answer that. The engagement letters that Chet is signing does have the dollar amounts in it. I don't have those in front of me to know what the fees are for Banning or Baker Tilly, but we do have those actual numbers.
Total, it's going to be between the two, it's going to be around 90,000.
Okay.
And generally, those fees can be used to the cost of establishment. I mean, there's restrictions and things like that, but and Baker Tilly will be driving that quite a bit on helping draft the ordinances and how those fees can be used. But generally, the cost of actually setting the thing up can be somewhat defrayed. I don't have them in front of me, Bob. I'm not for sure, but I do know that there's some areas of establishing the fees that can be reimbursed.
Okay, good. All right. But there again, I was thinking, if memory is certainly right, there was a time frame, but if they're getting borrowed from the utility, which I fully support on that, I thought you had to pay it back within a time frame, but
yes,
you can extend that as well if need be, which would probably be the case.
Yes, it's usually by the end of the calendar year in which it's borrowed. But there are exceptions by which the council can decide to extend that But you're absolutely right, Bob. The general is it's by the end of the calendar year in which it's borrowed from.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Good job, Jessica and Rachel on that.
Yes, I would agree, yes. Good job.
Keep this going because the timeline is very important. I know.
Yep, we'll have more information for you in July. And hopefully maybe some numbers even.
Okay. Any other questions about impact fees? Okay, moving right along. New business, ordinance 20-11, an ordinance regarding non-traditional vehicles. Everybody got a copy of that in front of them?
Yeah.
This is amending prior ordinance regarding the use and regulation of golf carts and other non-traditional vehicles in town. Chief, why don't you speak up on that if we will? I'll throw you under the bus on this one starting out.
Yeah, the reason this has been brought up again is simply when people say golf carts, we all have that image of a golf cart down at Idlewild. And so when this ordinance was first written, that's what we were, writing it to include. The problem is, as the world's changed, laws have changed, and different counties, including Madison County even now, allow things such as side-by-sides, ATVs, UTVs, quad runners, 4x4s. Each one of those different terms is a different type of vehicle. So in talking to Mr. Graham, we separated the two items, the old golf cart type vehicle, and then the non-traditional vehicles such as the UTVs, ATVs, etc. Like I've said from the beginning, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole, but we also understand there's people in the community want it, and we try to make them as safe as we can, but we also want people to enjoy it. And so these two ordinances help do that. It somewhat allows more vehicles. It stays with the same safety constraints, and it just cleaned up some of the language to help the guys enforce it a little better. And I think the citizenry will be happier with what it says. Is that about it, Jeff?
Yes, sir. That is that about covers it. There are places you can play in that ordinance to make a few tweaks, but and another reason that there's two different ones is they're governed by two different state statutes. Local governments are preempted quite a bit on these non-golf cart ATV ordinances, and so this one is I call it fairly medium as far as restrictions. We could probably tighten it up a little more or loosen it a bit more on the edges, but generally what you see in front of you is a garden variety ATV ordinance, except for golf carts, which we'll see that one here in a second.
Keep that, if you would, if I'm not lying here, tell me, but what the changes when you talk about it, the ordinance, the old ordinance was actually designed for out at the golf course, basically. So what's the big changes in this ordinance?
It talks about things as far as roads it can be on. It really, more than anything, Chet, it clarifies. You had a pretty good list of ordinances in place. They were somewhat scattered and referred to each other, and I understand that it caused some enforcement issues. So clarity is one of the major changes. Try to put it all in one place. And then, mainly it just catches up with state law on a few of the issues such as age, what you can require in terms of insurance and things of that nature.
Okay.
Another thing it does, Chet, is it allows driving on State Street. If you remember right, we had an issue with people on the sidewalks. So we allowed State Street to be operated to the first intersection in which they could jump off. I believe this paperwork now reads that they can travel on State Street freely and they don't have to jump off. Most of the vehicles out there now are moving with the speed limit. and then otherwise, if they're not, then they've got the signage. But those are the little tweaks that we took out of the old ordinance to make it nicer for the public.
That's what I wanted to hear, Chief. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think there was a question about age. And I don't know if that's something we need to decide tonight or if it's already written in that ordinance.
Let's go ahead and talk about, because we'll be voting on this in the next meeting. We'll take a vote tonight.
Yeah. Chad, I'm kind of losing you, I think.
Okay, Jeff, if you would explain to me, or us, I should say, where the state statute differs from the ordinance as far as age and license.
On this ATV one, you're pretty much locked in on what the age can be. You can play with the age on the golf cart one and make it more restrictive than just a driver's license. That one you can crank up to 18. Also, I understand that I'm looking through it here on this 2011. As far as an equipment requirement, that it does not necessarily require a rear view mirror. We could certainly add that. Councilman Denny brought that up to me this evening before the meeting.
I think we need to add that.
But your age requirement on 5, you can, the code there, 1416-120B, that one you're stuck with. You can, let me see here. I get these. Yeah, that one on your ATV ordinance, you don't, it's much stricter. The state has us hemmed in a lot more than they do on golf carts. Golf carts you can play around with and make more permissive. This one, and I think that makes sense probably because these things can have a heck of a lot more horsepower, and people seem to get hurt more on these things. But it sure as heck makes it difficult for enforcement.
Any questions from council members? Jeff, I would like to see us, along with what Councilman Denny talked about, the rear view mirror, added to the street-ready golf cart.
That's on this 2011, sir?
Yes. No.
On 2012?
2012 golf cart.
Yeah. That's, we can add that. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just going to talk more about it with the 2012 because with the 2 different ordinances. That's why I didn't say anything on this one.
Very good. Yeah, the 2012 there in the rules and regulations, we could just add an I, make it a 7I. So we could pencil that in tonight, and I can give you a typed copy tomorrow, and just say that golf carts must have rear view mirrors. It's just like E says turn signals and F says adequate brakes.
That's fine. Rest of the council members agree?
Yeah, this is Bob. I would agree with that. I think the review mirror would be beneficial. Yeah, make it a little safer.
Are we still talking about 2011-11 or 20-12?
I think we've been going back and forth.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
I agree with
2012.
Okay. I agree with the rearview mirror, and then my other question I had in regards to the seat belts for the golf carts. What I didn't see in there, and that I know that some golf carts do have, that go along with seat belts, are safety bars. Just like the front 2 seats have seat belts, the back seat has seat belts. But then if you have a larger one that has a middle seat, a lot of times there'll be a safety bar in there, and it kind of, if you think about it, it kind of looks like something that sits over in front of you, like when you get on a roller coaster ride, and then you can hold on to it. And I think if people who get these carts want to put in a safety bar instead of the seat belts, I think it's another idea that they can go to.
And if the council wants to make that change, we could certainly add into C a little semicolon and put golf carts must have seat belts for each passenger in front and rear seats, semicolon, and middle seats must be provided with a safety bar or seat belt. And each passenger on the golf cart, except for middle seats, shall have the seat belts securely fastened around them. That would be an easy fix as well, if that's where the council wants to go on that one. But that's perfectly fine.
Chief Farr, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Regarding, I understand that you can travel on State Street now. What about parking on State Street with the golf cart?
As far as I'm concerned, we're going to try to treat them like a car.
Okay.
So if they can park, and travel, and all that good stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions about 20-11, which is the ATVs? And 20-12 is about golf carts. We'll do one reading tonight.
Yeah, I've got one question.
Sure.
Jeff, is Willie. On the 2011, the helmet, can you clarify that for me? As far as who has to wear a helmet, who doesn't?
1 second, I'm pulling it up here. If they're under 18, they have to. 1 second. I have to read this every time.
I guess my real question is, if a four-wheeler versus a side-by-side, or a that kind of vehicle, do they have to have a helmet on those kind of vehicles?
My interpretation of this is they both fit under this 2011, not 2012. So that helmet rule would fit both.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
My interpretation is that both those vehicles you talked about, and that's one of the things we talked about, and we could add that in time for the next meeting. Do we want to get into giving more examples of what 2011 will govern as opposed to 2012? And there's all kinds of different vehicles now that fit into this 2011, and we can give we can make that more detailed, more specific, to give the enforcement and the citizens better understanding.
And with the questions that's been brought up, whether it's side-by-side, a gator, I'm talking about 20-11, which would be the ATVs. Talking about seat belts and helmets and so forth, and all the questions coming up. Does any of the council members have an issue or a problem with holding off on that until we clean the language up in it? Does that mean no?
Nope. I mean, I agree with that.
Okay.
Everybody else agree?
Yeah, this is Bob. I agree with that. I'm good with it.
I'm good.
Clean the language up. Jeff and Rachel and myself will work on that. But I don't want to make it so restrictive that it just causes more problems for the chief and everybody to enforce.
Sure.
And Chet,
Go ahead.
have these been posted anywhere? Have we gotten public feedback on either of these?
No.
No,
Or
and this tabling would give us an opportunity to do that too. Absolutely.
Okay. Because I think there's probably going to be a lot of comment on not just the ATV one, but the golf carts as well.
Right.
Yep. the more folks that own these things and operate them can give a lot of input on those of us that don't. So that's a good idea.
And I guess I have one concern about either of them really would be, like, I'm not up to date on golf cart lingo here, but I'm sure there's older models out there that don't necessarily meet all of the requirements that are now listed in the new 20-12. So I'm wondering how those residents, if they'd be grandfathered in or how that would work.
Generally, no, they're not. They have to meet all the requirements of the ordinance, and my understanding is that most of these are fairly easy to do, that there's a cottage industry that can do that fairly cheaply and efficiently. Not cheaply, that's a relative term, obviously. But generally, the ordinance does not allow for grandfathered in models that, like a car, you drive an old enough car, I don't think it even needs a seatbelt or certain safety features. But but for golf carts on their ordinances, my understanding is there is no grandfathering.
Okay.
I'd have to agree with that.
This is Mark. Some of the verbiage we've used on the equipment, I believe, is already covered in the old ordinance. I think people are going to find what we did. One thing in our old ordinance it talked about during the inspection, we had to do the braking that stopped it within 20 feet at 32 miles an hour, and it had all the lingo that it was hard for us to even do the inspection. So that's some of the wording we changed. I think you'll find that anybody with golf carts currently or anybody with one of these non-traditional vehicles are going to be very happy with the changes we've made.
I agree. I do. Good way, if you go to look at a golf cart and you tell them you want it street ready, they're going to make it street ready like Steve was talking about. So I'm going to make another request again, and on 20-12, take that and see if we need more input and make it changes as required. Any issues from any council members? Good enough. We're going to table both of them. Okay, next thing is
Chet, I'd recommend go ahead and taking a vote on the tabling just to make it official and keep it on our agenda.
Say that again, Jeff.
Could you invite a motion to table on that? I think everybody's in agreement, but just for the record, so there's a vote on it.
Okay. May I have a motion to table 20-11 and 20-12?
Mr. Bob, I'll make a motion to table both 2011 and 2012.
This Shane, I'll second.
Thanks, Shane. We have a motion to table ordinance 20-11 and ordinance 20-12. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same. Carried 5-0. Let's go skip the council reports and we'll stay off of that.
Okay.
Public comments. Rachel, you got any?
Chet, if I could, one last thing before we move into that. But on Tuesday, you were sent a resolution on the towing fees being put in the police donation fund. I emailed that on Tuesday just to you, and I did not get that on the agenda in time. You did look at it in May. I emailed it to you right before the meeting, all 5 of you. All that does, it directs fees that are received under the towing contract with Gardner Family Enterprises Incorporated. They would go to the police donation fund. We talked about putting them in training and things like that. Chief Farr found out that was pointed out that we couldn't do that, so the donation fund is legal. That is in front of you, and if there's any questions I can answer them, we could certainly put this one off to July as well. Chief Farr asked earlier or late last week if that could be included. I thought it was, but it was not. It would certainly be within the council's purview to consider it, especially considering you looked at it in May. But I did want to bring that up on Chief's behalf.
So is that in a resolution or an ordinance? Yeah.
Yes, it was resolution R20-04, and you it's in your Google file for May, and we tabled it back last month.
Sounds to me like we need to vote on that tonight, that we got that. Chief and I did talk about that, and why they have to be changed to the funds.
Right. At that point, I think one of the holdups is we hadn't signed the contract yet from the police standpoint. And now Chief just informed us that it has been, and it's so I think it's ready. And if there's obviously any questions, I'll answer them.
Any questions from council?
If I may add a comment here, the chief and I met with these people and talked about it. This money it's not extra money. It's money they're giving us to take care of this business, and it doesn't add to anyone else's bill. Plus, the towing company will tow the town of Pendleton's vehicles in this package for free, so it could save us some money in the long run.
This is Bob. I'm good with the discussion lab. I do wonder about it's called the donation fund, yet it's a fee. To me, that's not the best marriage of words as far as, if I'm paying a fee, it's required, but it's going into a donation fund. I don't know if that's an issue or not, but it's something I do wonder about.
As far as the listing for all the funds with the police department, the law enforcement continuing education, that's where we planned on putting it, but it's governed by state law of what can be deposited. Pendleton Police they've always had the fund called the donation fund. Ingalls has a fund called the Chiefs. They call it the Chiefs Fund is what they deposit theirs in. So I see what you're saying. I just don't know. Again, that's up to Jeff, but as far as the title of the fund, I just know it's one that we can make deposits.
Right. And I'm not picking that apart all by just, say a fee, then going into a donation fund, but not sure about the verbiage.
Yeah, I don't disagree that what you're saying.
Am I correct, though, that it's a fee that's being collected by Garner, and then it's Garner that's paying us? So it's just like Garner's giving us a donation. I mean, maybe we're splitting hairs.
Yeah.
We're not charging a fee.
Yeah, but for Garner, it's a donation, then it would be a mute point. Just the word fee.
Garner. Yeah.
Jeff, you're okay with the verbiage and the way we changed it, correct?
Yeah, I understand Bob's point of what the seemingly the the misnomer there, but from a legal standpoint, we're fine. That fee is the reason that one was picked is because there are almost no restrictions on what can go in there, and we were concerned. We were tiptoeing around with the equipment fund and things like that. So we said, well, we want it to benefit the police department. What's the easiest way to do it? It's that one.
Okay, this is Bob. I'm good with that.
Okay. I'd like to have then a motion to approve resolution R20-04 for the towing contract to the donation fund.
This is Bob. I'll make a motion to that effect.
I have a
This
second.
Steve, I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second for resolution R-20-04. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Approved 5-0. Thanks for bringing that up, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Rachel?
Okay, so right now we're going to be doing the public comment period. And for those of you who've called in or logged in, if you have something that you would like to talk about, I think there should be an option for you to raise your hand. And when you raise your hand, I can give you permission to speak. And then just make sure that you say your name and where your address is, so we have it for public record, and then we can allow you to speak. I don't see anyone raising any hands, so.
Okay.
I actually have something real quick. Mark Farr, if nobody's there, raising their hand.
Okay.
Go ahead, Chief.
Got your hand up?
I do. I have my hand up. I just wanted to say that with the coronavirus and everything, the officers of the police department did very well, continuing to try to do the job of law enforcement while being concerned with getting corona. 2 of our friends actually got it, so we know it's a real thing. You know, we tried to take precautions at the department, but when you're dealing with humans at the police job, that makes it kind of difficult. So we were washing hands, cleaning clothes, trying to make sure the cars were healthy. We sprayed them out. We sprayed the building out. And I just have to say that my men performed very well during this last few months. And that's all I've got.
Chief Farr. This check.
Yes.
I apologize for not talking about the police department. I was talking about the rest of the town earlier.
Oh, no problem.
I know it is. Our police department didn't get any time off. They worked every day that they were supposed to. And the chief and the captain and the sergeants and the patrolmen, nothing really changed for them during the whole period, which is still ongoing with them. So my hat's off to the police department too. I apologize, Chief.
Oh, thank you. I'll definitely pass that on to the men. And Connie's excited. The casino opens on Monday.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else got anything? If not, I have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Steve.
Oh, hold on.
Hold on a minute.
Okay, I do have someone who had called in that is raising their hand to talk, so let me go ahead and allow. Okay, JC, can you please say your name and your address, and then you can go ahead with your comments. You will need to unmute yourself on your end, though.
All right, got it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Kristen Case, 423 North Pendleton Avenue. This question's been asked, so I'm sure it's not a surprise. There have been several requests asking the Pendleton Police Department to make a statement regarding current issues. There was the Black Lives Matter peaceful protest through town. The Marklettville Police Department and Fortville Police Department have issued statements denouncing what has been happening. I'm just curious why Pendleton Police Department's not only stayed silent, but absolutely 100% completely ignored any requests for a statement by several people.
Okay, this is Mark. I don't know what you mean by several people, a handful maybe. With that said, after watching the President Trump's roundtable today for the police reform, Attorney General Barr made the comment that nationally, police officers are by an overwhelming majority good, decent people that love their community.
I agree.
And I can assure the residents of the town of Pendleton that this is absolutely true for the town of Pendleton.
I 100% agree with that. I do. I just think that in light of everything that's happened in the past year, that it just speaks volumes with absolute silence and not even acknowledging that the question has been brought up. I think that that is just sending a very clear message.
Well, I also, I believe actions are a lot of times better than words. And I believe my putting on a safe protest walk in the community on Saturday spoke volumes for where I stand and my men.
Hey, Chief, this is Shane. Can you inform the public and everybody that's listening, how many complaints have we had with our police department using excessive force or anything like that? If you could, if you know
in my 14 years, I don't believe of any. My men are top notch. And I'm not going to sit here and toot my own horn, but I've been a police officer 24 years, a Taekwondo instructor, academy president. We have the training and the ability to do the job appropriately to effect arrests. We have policies in place. We have oaths of honor that we've raised our hand to. We have department mission statements. The guidelines that we follow to try to do the best job is thick. And I can assure the town residents that you have a top-notch, trained, professional police department, and they do a wonderful job.
I want to say also, I don't disagree with that. This is not an attack on the police department in any way whatsoever. This is not a means to say that I think that something in our police departments happened in the past. I'm not making any accusations whatsoever. I just think it's comforting to see surrounding communities show that unity with the entire country at a time that's really important in history. And the lack of any comment whatsoever, or even acknowledging that people have asked, to me just gives the answer. And I think that you probably don't get a lot of requests for it because I think that people are afraid to stand up and ask. So, I don't want to stand up and ask this question. I don't want to be seen as against the police department because I'm not at all. I just think it's a really important issue. It's a big time in history, and I feel like this is a missed opportunity that should be taken. Just to put people's minds at ease and just to say, they're aware, they're watching, they appreciate our views as citizens. I think that people need it. I mean, you saw 200 people come downtown Pendleton for this peaceful protest.
And they saw me downtown with them.
I know, I saw you there too. And that's not that, I get that.
And I can also tell you
support
today,
it. I don't want to say that you didn't support it, Chief, but I want to say that just being there performing the duties of the job don't necessarily say that that's support. I think people need to hear it. That's my opinion, and I don't think it's just mine, and I'm not trying to, this isn't argumentative. I feel like it's important. I feel like people have been let down.
well, people that have contacted me directly, such as today, I received a great phone call on station with a woman with the same concerns as yours, and we had a great conversation about it. In fact, she left, I was able to answer her direct questions perfectly. Social media has become a way to connect with people, which I still like people to come up and knock on my side door and come in and speak to me. I mean, you live right across the road. Everybody's invited to come visit. So again, I spoke to my men. I picked their brain on what kind of speech, if any, wants to be given. And each one of them like to point out that doing their job is speaking for them. They continue to do their job well. We're well trained. And if anybody has any question or concern, please come visit. And unfortunately, I've learned it over the last year to pigeonhole myself. If I put something in writing, it could be construed wrong. So we continue to do our job, and we do it with the utmost efficiency and ability and conscientious of what we do. So I'm real proud of my department, and I think they do a wonderful job.
And I think you should be. Like I said, this isn't a cut on the department at all. I really honestly don't feel like you're really answering the question as to why. What is the reason for not making? I mean, you can say yes, you're proud of the department and all of this. I just don't really understand the reason for not making a statement.
Well, I don't know why Mark Farr needs to make a statement any more than the chief of Lapel or the chief of Frankton or the chief of Elwood or the chief of Ellick. The chief of Markville, Tim Basie, a great friend of mine, fellow chief, Chief Knauer down in Fortville. Each of them have their own opinion, and they chose to write it. There's no mandate that I need to speak on anything. And I think I just explained that in the world that I've been forced to live in somewhat over the last year, anything I say can be construed wrong. You know, I've read your posts on Facebook. I've been shown them by people. It's not a it's not a sympathetic, hey, Mark, where you're at. It's more of a trying to pigeonhole me. And again, I'll go back to our track record as a department, our mission statement. I mean, I can read our mission statement right now. Here, I'll give you this as a statement. Pendleton Police Department mission statement: to serve our community in a manner that promotes the quality of life, economic growth, and economic development of the town of Pendleton. We strive to accomplish our charge through conscientious protection of our persons and their property, enforcement of laws, suppression of crime, and observation of citizens' constitutional rights, which is exactly what we did on Saturday. We are committed to identifying funding sources and programs that allow us to maintain the best services available and providing for the community's future. And we also have a law enforcement oath of honor that was signed. This was done, we try to do it every other year. We have officers sign off on it. And it just simply states, on my honor, I'll never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for their actions. I will always uphold the Constitution, my community, and the agency I serve. We go above and beyond to build a strength within the department to make it proud of their community and willing to do the job, even in a national level issues going on right now, which we can debate those all day. But with that said, we continue to do our job. And as far as being put in a corner or pigeonholed to make a statement, I contacted Lapel Chief and I said, did you make a statement, reference anything? And his actual comment was, I haven't gotten one request. We're doing our job. And I said, well, so are we. So that's, I don't know what else could be expected of me. Does the council have a line for me to follow or something?
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna look at it this way. Kristen Case has got her opinion, which is fine, but to say that the chief should make a statement, it's entirely up to the chief. I agree with the chief done. I was downtown when the protest march went through town. It was very peaceful. Chief talked to me about what he had in place before, 2 and 3 days ahead of time. He talked with the young lady that was organizing it, and the day of the march, it was very good. And I think that speaks as a good statement by our police department. And personally, as the president, I don't expect him to make a statement just because we're not going to please everybody. It was a good march. So I'll leave it at that. Any more comments?
Just that the question could have been not completely ignored from the beginning, just with your answer would have been something. And that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Any more?
Any more comments?
If you do, please raise your hand at this time. Okay, I've also noted if there's anyone who isn't comfortable with speaking this way, you can always email the town council. Their email addresses are available on the town's website, or you can also call town hall tomorrow and convey any information that you'd want to, and we can get it to the council. All right, I think we are.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
Real quick, this is Steve. If there are no more setbacks with COVID-19, as of July 4th, restrictions are going to, I think they'll be pulled. So we will have regular meeting as a normal meeting in July, correct?
As of right now, yes, but that can change. So I've been very careful about saying something a month ahead of time because it can change.
Right, and I said that, Chad. I said unless something changes, we should be business as normal in July.
Like I said, things can change, and we have went with the governor's 5-phase program, and that's what we will continue to do. If it goes online or in line as it is, then yes, our meeting will be from the chambers.
I think one thing we're considering too, though, is offering the online option still, so that people can log in if they're not comfortable with attending. With all of our board and commission meetings, we've been, staff has been diving into this Zoom adventure. And I think, doing it this time as a webinar, we've done Plan Commission and RDC as webinars, and they've worked out pretty well for us. So anyway, I just wanted to chime in on that.
Okay, I will still entertain the motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. This is Shane.
Thank you, Shane. I have a second.
I'll second. This is Bob.
Thank you. I have a motion to second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion is carried. Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Aye.